Hello, my Backer Tribe. Welcome to Howling After Dark. Okay, so tonight's show, proudly brought to you by myself, Ghostwolf J, and your friends at Ghostwolf Paranormal, and the paranormal community at large. The way this show tonight came about, what we're talking about tonight is Paranormal and Cults. And what brought this all about, in my mind anyways, is I've been watching a lot of videos about different cults and things, and I watched the video for the series called Leah Remini, Scientology in the Aftermath. And I've been thinking about that a lot lately in general. Very informative show. I learned a lot of things I didn't know before. I mean, I was always kind of creeped out by Scientologists I would see, because I lived a lot of my formative years in San Diego, California, and starting in California, they're kind of everywhere. Anyways, and then I was watching some of the newer Ghost Adventures, and I think it's like season 12, which would be like 2 seasons ago. They did an episode at a place called Casa de los Rosas, which was at one point the home of none other than L. Ron Hubbard. And according to what they were theorizing about in the show, he was not a nice man. He used and abused people. His own son at one point had said that he was basically Satan. And even at one point, and keep in mind, this is all at the very beginnings of Scientology. Scientology wasn't even really a thing yet. Dianetics had just come out at this point. But evidently, he had, and some of his, I guess, parishioners, I guess you could say, had done a ritual in the home attempting to actually birth the Antichrist. That, I mean, I'm not saying that that's actually a possible thing. I'm not saying that that's actually what happened, but it does kind of illustrate the mindset of this man and where he's willing to go to achieve his dark goals, I guess you could say. But then I've been watching, Scientology in the Aftermath, and if you haven't seen it yet, folks, definitely check it out. It's on A&E. She filmed season 1, and they're getting ready to do season 2 now, which is, pretty awesome. And like she doesn't. I actually love her. Leader Remini is awesome. She doesn't pull punches. Like, if she thinks something, she's going to let you know. And she's not going to sit on her hands and let all the shit that they're doing occur without trying to do something about it. And before we get to the paranormal side of where I'm going tonight, I want to talk a little bit about that and what her show's about. When L. Ron Hubbard founded Scientology, first of all, I believe, and this is just my personal theory, I believe that he was not what you could call mentally stable. I believe that that whole cult or religion or whatever you want to call it was set up to stoke his ego. But because he was so about, getting all the glory and everything, he invented a concept within his church called disconnection. And what that is, and keep in mind, these are all rules and stuff set up for people that already believe in all of this. They already believe in him. And so, of course, and they believe in him in such a way, and they're afraid of him in such a way, that they're, of course, going to do pretty much whatever he says. But what disconnection is family members disconnecting from other family members or even entire families because they are declared by the church as suppressive people. And what a suppressive person is basically anybody that speaks out against the church. So as of this broadcast right here, I would be labeled a suppressive person. and therefore labeled an enemy of sorts. And just by doing this broadcast, I could very well be inviting their wrath, so to speak. And we'll get into what that could mean here in a little bit. But so they actually encourage people to disconnect from their own families. Another thing that they do is if they suppress a person, I guess such as myself, speaks out against Scientology, they will do things to discredit you. At one point, they've actually gone as far, if I'm remembering correctly, they've gone as far as framing people for crimes. They've picketed essentially people's homes at times, holding up signs saying, ugly things like, like sex of children or things of that nature, to try and get this person discredited so no one will believe them, and their whole social structure will collapse. And surprisingly, it works, like a lot. Happens all the time. I mean, it happens so often, like, it's ridiculous. Now, to level-headed people outside of the church that aren't going to be so quick to buy into all that stuff, we might be sitting here thinking, oh, well, I wouldn't believe that necessarily. But you don't know. Because the fact of the matter is they can be so convincing about it, you could end up believing pretty much anything they say. Now, here's the scary part. Scientology has people in power. In our society. Let that sink in for a second. They either have people that are members of their church in power, or are at least sympathetic to them in power. They've had, I think the highest one that we know for sure that they've had in a public office, I think, was a senator, or a Supreme Court judge. I'm not sure which, but I think you see where I'm going with this. And as far as I'm concerned, and this is once again just my opinion, I don't know. I was never a member of the church. I never planned to be a member of the church, but I did see them a lot, and I was always creeped out by them. Always. There was something very unsettling about them, like an aura that you could feel almost. But once again, I was never a member of the church, so I'm sure there were aspects of it, and are aspects of it that could be possibly useful to somebody. And that's fine. But the problem is, and I don't understand how even none of their members have even thought of this. They are practicing a religion that was invented by a science fiction author. The key word there is fiction. Okay, so I don't know. Like I just is that they're scary is what I'm saying, and they have some frightening beliefs. They really do. And uh, Leah Leah I think was the one that said in her show that it's a culture of abuse, and from all I've seen before and after her show and during her show and on her show, I would have to agree with that because they have people so brainwashed that they'll do whatever they're told. And the only way to get somebody to do that to that degree is through fear. You use their own fears and insecurities against them. And by the way, okay, and I'm not digging on any celebrity. I'm not digging on any member of the church that believes this stuff. I'm really not. I feel for them, actually. But it is no surprise to me that some of the most outspoken members of the Church of Scientology happen to be celebrities. Because if you think about it, and I'm sure even some of the celebrities in question, if they were really to be honest about it and really be open about it, would agree with this. Celebrities in general have a tendency to be the most insecure people because it makes sense, you know. Uh, they think things like, well, you know, how do I know they like me for me and not for my fame or my wealth or whatever? And those kind of thoughts go through their heads, and so they feel very insecure. Now, that's not 100%. There are some celebrities that are very secure with their lives and where they're going and everything. I believe Leah herself. Um, so it is a generalization, but it does make sense that like a good majority of celebrities would be susceptible to, well, to be honest, this bullshit, right? So, just pointing that out. Anyways, to get on with the paranormal side. So, if you've seen the episode of Ghost Adventures in question with Casa de la Rosas, well, you know what happened. And if you haven't, let me explain. Uh, you can't perform rituals like was being performed in that place. You cannot treat people the way he was treating people in that place and expect there not to be something dark. He even says that there's waves of dark, negative energy coming off that place that even affects people outside of the building. And that's the paranormal aspect of it. And I don't entirely know if people consider that when they start a cult like this, or when they join a cult like this, because you're actually putting negative shit into the world. Another case in point. Um, I'm sure everybody has at least heard of Heaven's Gate and that whole debacle. I'm actually going to bring up my information on them. We're not going to go too in depth. Heaven's Gate was an American UFO-based religious uh, uh, millenarian group based in San Diego, California, founded in 1974 and led by Marshall Applewhite until his death in 1997. And on March 26, 1997, police discovered the bodies of 39 members of the group who had participated in a mass suicide in order to reach what they believed was an extraterrestrial spacecraft following a comet Hale-Bopp. Now, here's what's scary. Uh, their belief is basically that angels and devils and God are aliens. Now, here's what's scary about it. Mm, in the town I spent much of my youth in, called El Cajon, California, it's part of San Diego County. There's a place called the Unarius Academy of Science, which is a cult. Uh, but here, I'm going to read you just this little bit. Unarius is a nonprofit organization founded in 1954 in Los Angeles, California, and headquartered in El Cajon, California. The organization purports to advance a new interdimensional science of life based upon fourth-dimensional physics principles. It is recorded that in 2003-2004, Unarius centers existed in Canada, New Zealand, Nigeria, and the United Kingdom, and in various locations in the United States. Unarius is an acronym for Universal Articulate Interdimensional Understanding of Science. The founder and subsequent channels and subchannels have written books filled with channeled dissertations from alleged advanced intelligent beings that exist on higher frequency planes. Okay, so in other words, they, rather than believing in aliens, believe in beings that exist in a different dimension of a higher intelligence that are channeling through their religious leaders. And they believe that in this way they are immortal and will be reincarnated many times. But they do refer to space brothers who will come from the stars in 33 spaceships to improve humanity. What's scary about this is there is no tie-in here with this group with Heaven's Gate, and there's no tie-in between this group and and Scientology, but some of their beliefs are very, very similar. So where did they come from? I believe I know, but I can't prove it. I don't know for sure. Just my theory on it. I believe that the founders and leaders of these churches or cults or whatever you want to call them are being manipulated by negative, if not demonic, spirits, which would explain why some of their ideas are the same or very similar. It is also possible, technically, that ideas are being stolen, I guess, but it's hard for me to believe that because these are not groups that socialize with each other. So it just it weirds me out a bit. I'll be honest. I'm far more worried about um, groups like this than I am about the paranormal itself because belief is a very strong thing, and people will defend their beliefs often in viciously and violently. And example, Great Crusades. Um, so yeah, groups like this do worry me a little bit. But more importantly, what worries me is the effect that they have on the paranormal. Um, I've spoken before at length about my belief that most so-called trapped spirits are in fact not trapped. Um, it's misinterpretation of the situation because of one simple fact, and I believe this wholeheartedly. I call it a fact, but of course, I won't be able to prove it until the day that I give up this body and I'm in the spirit world. But I believe it like it's a fact, so I call it a fact. The fact that is, we do not give up free will when we die. We make choices just like we do in life. And what scares me about these groups is the way that they're designed, and probably most likely the negative spirits that they interact with. It would be very easily achievable for their members once they're dead from this world, for the spirits to be trapped within their own system. But the fact of the matter is like, for the most part, other than that, I don't think there are trapped spirits. But I think that is the exception to the rule. I think that is potentially the most damaging thing to the spirit world, to the paranormal, other than people doing things that they shouldn't be doing because they think they know what they're doing. That makes sense. Like people playing with Ouija boards, which, if you've ever played with one, I'm not gonna berate you, but if you have thought about it, and haven't done it yet, by some chance, please don't. Because here's the thing. From my experience, it is an open doorway, an open channel. Anything can come through it. And unlike, and I know people have said, well, EVPs or whatever are just as bad. No, they are not, because the difference in what makes a Ouija board so much worse is when I use like the Spirit Box app on my phone or a digital recorder to communicate with spirits and hear their voice, those devices I can turn off. I can take the batteries out of those. You don't turn off the Ouija board. Just because you fold it up and put it back in the box doesn't mean the channel's closed. But I digress. So yeah, I think groups like this are inherently dangerous to the spirits, and not just while they're um, while the people inhabiting or the spirits inhabit are still alive. I think there's damage being done to them spiritually. I think there's damage being done to them mentally and emotionally, and in some cases, from what I've heard, physically. But they won't stand up for themselves because they're so brainwashed they really believe in all that they've been told by these spirits. And we see it over and over again, how horribly wrong these groups can go. There was Heaven's Gate, there was, I forget the name of the group that he belonged to, but David Koresh's group in Waco, Texas. Um, and you can't tell me that there's not a direct paranormal effect on not only those people involved, but also in those buildings and those structures on that land, because over and over we've seen it. There's no debating that Casa de Rosas is incredibly haunted and is incredibly negative haunted. There's no debating that the home where the Heaven's Gate mass suicide happened is not extremely negatively haunted. There's no debating that the Waco compound is negatively haunted. People have caught things on camera. They have caught EVPs. They've caught mountains of evidence. And the good majority of it has all been negative because of these groups. People always want somebody to agree with them. And that's all well and good. But I got to tell you one thing I've learned, and it took me a while. I'm 47 now. And it took me the majority of my life to learn this lesson. But whether people agree with me or not isn't really the point. And in some cases, I almost prefer that people don't agree with me as long as they're passionate about their beliefs. Because I would rather somebody be like, look, dude, I don't agree with what you said, and here's why. Then have somebody just, like a sheep following the herd, just go, oh, yeah, okay, I believe that. And that's what these groups, what these cults take away from their own people. They take that away from them. They take that ability to think for themselves away from them. That's how they work. That's why these people, like Jim Jones in Jamestown all those years ago, that's how he got that to happen. Is he took away their ability to think without him. That's the way that Waco happened, and that's the way that Heaven's Gate happened, and that's the way that Scientology evidently has been happening. By using a system of fear, using a system of abuse, using a system of brainwashing, using a system of manipulation, these groups have systematically taken away the most basic right, the most basic freedom of the individual. The right, the freedom to think for oneself. And the right and the freedom to believe what one chooses to believe. And I strongly recommend, if you haven't seen it yet, watch Leah Remini, Scientology in the Aftermath. It will open your eyes to a lot of stuff. But listening to her talk, she's even been there. She vehemently defended that church for most of her life. And then, whatever happened to open her eyes. But I'm glad that her eyes are open because somebody needs to be doing what she's doing. She is trying her hardest to document these stories of abuse, to document what these former members of the Church of Scientology have been through. And I hope one day she does that for other religious groups, like Unarius, I think would be a good one. But I absolutely adore her for what she's done. Her and Mike Rinder, who was one of the highest officers of that church, have since having their eyes open, I guess you could say, have waged a kind of war against the church and have made some headway, and I love them for it. Somebody needs to, because the shit they're doing just is not cool. But there are other religious groups out there, like Unarius, for example, that aren't exactly kosher either. And need to be stopped, and hopefully, at some point, maybe she'll, try and do something like that, but, if she don't, regardless, she's awesome for doing what she's done, you know. So yeah, definitely check it out. It's on Amy. You can, they do have, I think, a few episodes on YouTube if you want to look it up. It's awesome, very emotional, heart-wrenching stuff, and it's all true. And what's funny is at the beginning of her shows, she reads like these letters that the church sent, where they say like, "Oh, well, we disagree with what so and so said. So and so is guilty of this and this and this." They try and throw blame anywhere but on themselves, and that's the biggest telltale sign of any cult. And I've known Christian churches that are guilty of this. Right? They don't want to accept that they've done something wrong. They would rather lay blame on outsiders or on people leaving their church than they would be to say, well, I had a hand in this. And that's just outright sad. Anyways, food for thought, I guess. My time is almost up. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Until next time, my pack, my tribe. Peace.